Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sonic Music Releases, the series where I talk about various physically released Sonic music from over the years. And today is a pretty interesting episode because we finally move away from Japan and even the United States, which brings us to Supersonic Dance Attack and Supersonic Dance Attack Remix. They're both very similar, so I'm going to be kind of talking about them in tandem before I show them off. They were both released in 1992, and they were both released in Germany, the first German Sonic music that I'm looking at. In the early days of Sonic music being released on CD, CDs being released with Sonic on the front, a lot of them, aside from like the Sonic Dance Power CDs, which I will eventually get to in this series, a lot of them were remixes. There wasn't actually an official Sonic soundtrack until I think Sonic R. So, we got a ton of remixes and a lot of stuff from the UK, and it was an interesting time. It's very it was a lot more unorganized than it is now. Now it's like, we have, okay, this is the soundtrack from Sonic Heroes, and now this is the one from Shadow. But back then, this was like, alright, we have these remixes, and then there's Wizards of the Sonic, and then there's Supersonic HWA, and then there's this Dance Power. It's fucking ridiculous. However, these are actually my two favorite, early 90s not Sonic soundtrack CDs. Because they're very cool. They're just really fun music to listen to. I'm going to be playing it in the background, but of course you can always look them up later on YouTube and listen to them in their entirety. So this was published by RCA and BMG. RCA being, the fucking VCR company that you probably know it by. This was the original, and this was actually the remix, and this was published by BMG Areola Hamburg GmbH, which seems to be some kind of subsidiary to just BMG. Has BMG in the name, so I would assume so. BMG also stands for Bertelsmann Music Group. Okay, so musically, what are these exactly? So basically it takes the Invincible theme from Sonic 1. I'm assuming that's what it is. It sounds very, very similar with just some different progression in how everything's laid out. And remixes it, and there's a ton of sound effects from both Sonic and Streets of Rage, of all things, laid in and kind of put in to make it sound all techno-y. Now, if we look at the cover, it says Inter-Galactica Dance Club, and you might think, is that like a band? Is that some, a band that remixed something for Sonic? Their discography is only this, so I'm assuming it's a group of artists that made this little name for this exact release. Also, you might notice this is very thin for a CD. This is what is known as a Maxi CD, basically like half the size of a normal CD jewel case. Maxi CDs were very popular in the UK, I believe, more so than the US for sure. And there are several early Sonic music releases that were on Maxi CDs, so I figured I'd talk about them. Maxi CDs are also notable because you can see the disc in the back. That's, they're so thin, there's no, back tray or anything. That's just the disc right there. Take a look. Anyway, the last piece of information, I usually talk about what they retailed for, but there is no retail information on these, for what they went for back in the day. In fact, a lot of the early UK Sonic music doesn't really have a known retail release, so just going forward, keep that in mind. But anyway, let's take a look at these. So, first of all, the cover is one of if not my favorite cover arts for the early 90s Sonic music. It's just so cool and it's just very 90s, It's really cool. It's got these shapes and shit, and it's just cool, man. I like it. The cover art for Supersonic Dance Attack Remix is basically the same thing. It's just they made the text red and put a little remix triangle in the main logo. But anyway, let's take a look at the standard one first. Opening it up, well, the disc I can just show you on the other side. Inter-Galactica Dance Club, and then it has the track list. And what is that track list? It is Supersonic Dance Attack 16-bit version. Now, I don't know why they're called 16-bit version, because it's not 16-bit. I mean, there's sound effects and stuff, but it's not 16-bit music. And then there's the Supersonic Dance Attack Overtime Edit, which is about a little longer, maybe about 2 minutes longer than the original one. And then there's one called Inter-Galactica. I'm not really sure what that one is. I don't think I've ever sat down and listened to it. But, yeah. Interesting. 3 tracks. Maxi CDs are also usually short. You know, 5 tracks or less, if that. So now let's take a look at... Oh, boy. Well, first, they look very, very, very similar. Look at that. It looks exactly the same. But this one is the remix. And the remix is actually very cool. I like the remix of it. Again, you're probably going to have to listen to them on your own so you can kind of know what I'm talking about. But, you know, that's time not wasted, because it's good jamming tunes. We have the track list on here: Supersonic Dance Attack Remix, an overtime edit of said remix. And then we also have the Supersonic Dance Attack 16-bit version. This is just cut and paste from that one. It's the same exact one. And then there's Inter-Galactica again, which these last 2 are literally just from that. And then opening it up, you know, same exact look. These are practically the same, just very, very slightly different. So in terms of what both of these are worth, I would kind of put them at the same level, and that is not expensive at all. These are very, very easy to find. I would say both of them are worth anywhere from $5 to $15 each. And if you compare that to some of the releases I've already talked about, that's insanely cheap. And that's usually even with shipping. I got my normal one on eBay for $7.50 shipped. However, I'm going to have to recommend checking out a website called Discogs. They are very good for releases like this, foreign, a lot of stuff from the UK and Sweden, so many countries. Other than America. For Japanese releases, it's not usually the best place, but they still have some deals. And you can often find sellers with really, really cheap rates for shipping. I can't remember how much did I get my remix for? I think I got mine for $11 off of, I think it was Discogs. But yeah, I definitely point you towards there, because that's a great website for just not only reading about Sonic music or any music in general, finding out some history about it, about record labels and stuff, but also it's got a very, very lively marketplace there too. A lot of these, you know, they were probably very cheap originally, and to people in the UK that have these, they're probably like, oh, this is just some little, you know, thing. In fact, if you live somewhere in the UK, the shipping is probably like super easy. Like, there's some listed of these for, I think, like a couple bucks. And then if you live in the UK with really good shipping, that's even less. If you live worldwide, sometimes shipping can, you know, get a little more pricey, but every experience I've had on Discogs so far has been cheap. So, yeah, I would definitely point you towards them. And before I end this video, I do want to say that both of these have a 12-inch vinyl pressing. This one's actually, the vinyl for this is a promo, but this one was commercially released. I have no idea why this one was a promo and that one was not. But as far as what those are worth, I'd say about the same. Not really any much more. Maybe just in terms of shipping, because it's a bigger thing you're shipping in the mail. But anyway, yeah, that's Supersonic Dance Attack and its remix. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.